Okay, hello everybody and welcome to another video. I'm going to be doing something pretty interesting on my account over maybe the next couple of weeks or so, possibly upwards of a month. It depends how much I slack on it. But something I think is really kind of an interesting thing to play, and I'll be giving you guys some updates about it in videos over the upcoming weeks. And I wanted to share it with you all, not just to point out that this could be a thing, but also maybe if some of you wanted to try it out for yourselves. What I'm going to be doing, in essence, okay, is really not that exciting. I'm going to be making a new character. I know, that's really great, right? But I'm going to be making a new character under really weird circumstances, perhaps that will make me enjoy the game in a totally new way. So basically what I've been doing in Guild Wars 2 over the, I don't know, since Christmas, I've been working on a lot of goals, mostly for my Elementalist and a couple of other characters. I've really got to a point now where I've met most of those goals, right? So like my gear, I did that whole thing with the stat cap. I'm now really have nowhere else to go in terms of stats until ArenaNet actually start incentivizing things that aren't Berserker. You know, I really have nothing else to go for gear progression anymore. I now have every single terrestrial Elementalist legendary weapon there is, plus an extra dagger that of ascended quality just for those situations where I may need it. The only thing that really I can go for on my Ellie now is a legendary underwater weapon. And yeah, that kind of excites me, but I'm in no real rush, I must be honest. I'm in no massive rush, and the main thing for that legendary is I'm going to need world completion again. So this has got me looking, I've been thinking about doing this for many months, looking at the idea of playing a new character. Now, I've played pretty much every class in Guild Wars 2 as far as PvP is concerned, and I'd say I have a pretty good understanding of every class in Guild Wars 2, particularly when it comes to meta specs. But there are two in particular I've not really played in PvE. Number one is a Guardian, and number two is a Ranger. So I've decided to pick one of these to play. For a long time it was almost going to be Guardian, purely because Guardian, let's face it, is incredibly useful. Guardian is one of the strongest classes in the game in terms of where it can be used. Like, it's crazy versatile. You'll see it in world versus world being very significant. You'll see it in dungeons, in open world, PvE, stuff in PvP. Guardians are just great, right? So I was really close to making one of those, but I've decided to make a Ranger. Reason number one is Rangers get pets. And I, in theory, do enjoy the idea of a class with pets. I don't really like it so much in PvP, sorry. I don't really like the philosophy of so much passive stuff being so powerful. But hey, I kind of like the idea of having a pet-wielding class. In the first game where you could multi-class, I nearly always had my guys as secondary rangers just so they could have pets around. Ranger is a class I kind of like the idea of. It also would be a reasonably fun class to level with, right? I mean, you've got lots of different pets, other things to focus on and look for that I've never really done before in Guild Wars 2. Now, while I'm going through maps, I'll actually be trying to pay attention to where said pets are. So I'm going to be making a Ranger. But I'm going to be making that Ranger under a very special circumstance that tries to emulate what it would be like playing Guild Wars 2 at launch. See, I've kind of got into a pit, and I promise you most people watching this video will be in the same situation. Once you've leveled your first character, once you've got a bunch of gold on your account, you've got a bunch of crafting materials in the bank, you decide, right, I want to make an ult. And for many people, they just want that ult to be at level 80 super quick so they can do whatever it was they originally intended to. You know, they want it to run around in world versus world, blowing people up on their new ult, or they want it to be really useful and fill that niche in some specific encounters. Maybe they're doing Tequator and they want it to be really good on turrets. Maybe they've decided that they want something that's not a necromancer, say, to run dungeons. And what we tend to do once we're in this situation on our accounts is, instead of having fun leveling, instead of actually experiencing the game again, we skip everything we possibly can in the personal story, we rush to Edge of the Mists as fast as we can, we zerg around in there, and or we get to some level, say level 50, and then decide, right, I'm just going to craft the rest of the way. I hate this, and I do it all the time. Case in point, my Necromancer on my account. In fact, let's log out and I'll show her to you guys. My Necromancer, I didn't spend leveling very long at all. Here she is. She's an awesome character. I spent ages on character creation trying to make her look cool, but I didn't spend long on this character. I leveled her for a little while, got very bored, and crafted. And the crafting was really boring and annoying to me. I hate crafting to 80, but I tend to do it. It costs you a bunch of money. It feels like just a really lame gold sink, time sink, and it was nothing like when I experienced the game back at launch. What I'm going to be trying to do with this Ranger is embrace that idea. And to embrace this idea, I'm going to be doing what I've coined a soft reset of my account. The idea behind a soft reset being that you strip absolutely everything you can away from your characters, so that when you make a new toon, he doesn't have access to all of this quality of life you've built up on your other characters. Now, you might ask me, well, why didn't you just create a new account? I don't want to make a new account because I actually do want to have this character as an 80 in the end on my regular account. I want it for progress on my next legendary, stuff like that. So I do want to keep it, and obviously not everybody can buy a new account. So the idea of the soft reset is to strip away everything possible. When I make my new toon, I want to feel happy every time I complete a dynamic event because I got karma. I don't want to think to myself, oh, that's just 20 more karma on top of the pool of 2 million that doesn't really matter. I want to feel like, yes, I'm actually working on my gold again. I'm actually working on my karma again. I'm interested in the vendors and what they have for sale. I'm interested in gathering new materials when I hit a new area. When I make that transition, for example, between Queensdale to Kessex Hills, I'm going to be excited by the fact I'm now able to salvage higher quality cloths from things, and I'm going to be able to mine better ores. These were things that I really, really enjoyed at launch, particularly on the gathering side of things, and I have never experienced in Guild Wars 2 since then, and we're coming up on 2 years since that's happened. Further, the game has changed an awful lot, and particularly for me as a content creator, as much as for me as a player, I feel like it can become very easy to become out of touch with what new players coming into Guild Wars 2 are experiencing, right? When I originally played Guild Wars 2, the game was very different to what it is today. There was no wardrobe. This is a big feature that's just come in. There were no skins to unlock as I travel around the world. There were no, like, even options for the dailies that you do, the monthlies that you do. There were no laurels or incentive there. There was no incentive to fight champions as I was wandering around the world because there were no champ boxes and they weren't guaranteed to drop loot. The trait system was much more barren. There wasn't this idea of finding all these different areas you could go around the world to unlock traits. There were no mega servers, so when I got ahead of the curve very quickly and I got to the late game char areas, and for most of my experience, most of the maps were barren. Most people have experienced Guild Wars 2 as being barren. That shouldn't happen anymore, and there's much more too. You know, even really basic things about, and admittedly much of this changed with the feature patch, but even really basic things like the way they have the camera centered on your characters in this game now is different. Before, you were always like forced to be looking at the ground as you're running around in the game. Oh, look at how great their terrain textures were. You could never hold the camera over your shoulder like this and actually appreciate the other 50% of the game that they made. These are all big changes, and they're changes that I want to be able to experience all in one big lump sum. The other side of the coin as well is beyond purely just my enjoyment, because things are so different. You know, I don't really have any grasp anymore of what it's like to be a new player coming into Guild Wars 2. How much gold does someone end up having by the time they complete the personal story, if they actually are so inclined to go that far? How much gold do they have by the time they get to level 80? Do they have much gold left over once they've bought gear? Can they go straight to exotic? How much ascended stuff can you feasibly get during the leveling process? These are all things that I would love to know and kind of want to get myself involved in. It's really easy to become out of touch with various things in the game, and one of the biggest sticking points for this for me that I really noticed about myself over the past few months is the personal story. And again, I feel like most people watching this are probably quite out of touch too. Honestly, when was the last time, ask yourself right now, when was the last time you actually played the personal story? For me, yes, I've made new characters, and yes, I've gone through personal story stuff, but I've never really paid attention to what the characters say anymore. I just skip through all the cutscenes, or I only really have half my attention on them as I'm going through. It was really funny. I did a video a couple of weeks ago. You guys might have seen it, the footage in the background. One of the videos was me playing on Claw Island, and while I was on Claw Island, I actually stopped to take the time to sort of just look at what was going on, and I actually noticed so many things I'd completely forgotten about. It was almost 2 years since I've done this kind of thing. I actually felt very slight, but I did feel a slight amount of nostalgia. So this is something I want to go back through as well. I really want to try and experience the personal story and see whether my judgments of it still stand today. I have a feeling that my opinions will probably remain unchanged, but it's probably a good idea to look back. Like in another video, I was looking at the end of the personal story and reading some dialogue about that final instance, and there were all these really poetic and cool lines that had been said by different characters that I just had no appreciation for. So again, this is something else I'm kind of excited to do. So yeah, that's the idea. I'm going to be making a new character under a total soft reset scenario. I'll show you guys how to do the same thing if you're interested. And on top of that, some of you who may be familiar with me, maybe you watch me back with my Guild Wars 1 stuff, you know I like to challenge myself a little. I've wanted to do this with Guild Wars 2 for a while, but the game is just so adverse to letting you have your own challenges. I found it quite difficult to find a good concept, but I've got one for this new character, which I'll talk about in a second. But first, the soft reset, okay? So if I open up my inventory here, you can see I've got 37 gold. One of the most important things, obviously, would be to get rid of that gold. Now, under the new wallet system that they introduced, again, not there at launch, we can't just deposit that gold into our bank and be like, oh, there you go, I've got no gold on my character. To get rid of this stuff, you're either going to want to spend it or you're going to want to get rid of it somehow. You don't actually have to spend it, okay? If you had a lot more gold than I certainly do right now and you didn't want to spend it all just for the sake of this weird thing, get yourself a guild bank. I've got a guild bank here. Junalai chests with the tag storage. It's pretty good, right? And just through playing the game, spend a little bit of gold, you can get yourself a bunch of influence. Really, I'm the only player in this guild. This other guy doesn't even like play on our server technically. So, and because guilds are still separated from server, it doesn't mean anything, any influence he gets. But basically, you can build up a bank for yourself. You can go over to your guild bank. In my bank, you'll see I've got a bunch of Runes of the Crate, investments from Feature Patch, a bit of a wobbly investment. I did get my money back though, so don't worry about it. But here, once you've actually got yourself a guild bank, make sure it's secure. Obviously, no one's in the guild or has access to it. You don't want to. You can now still deposit your cash, just like you used to be able to before the wallet came into the game, and you will have absolutely no money on your account whatsoever. So I now have 0 gold. Before recording this video, I also decided, how did I get more karma? God damn it. That must have been because I was opening champ boxes. Before I recorded this video, I went away and spent all of my karma too. You can do this obviously on Obsi Shards, that's what I chose to do. And you can get a bunch of miscellaneous items also to drop that down to 0. I swear it was 0 just before I started recording, but I opened a champ box, so that must have given me some. Okay, I'm back. So you're going to want to strip your karma down. I just bought a bunch of ginger roots from Lion's Arch to get rid of that 1,000 that I had. I've got 4 left. Honestly, I don't mind too much. You're going to want to get rid of your laurels. If you want to spend those wisely or sort of semi-wisely, if you've been saving up, maybe you can get rid of them by buying the tier 6 materials. That's what I chose to do. But obviously, there's other stuff you can get. You can spend 2 laurels in a world versus world rank, whatever you like. Transmutation charges. I got 139 of these. This is not a currency I'll be stripping off of my account. Neither, but I won't be using transmutation charges. The idea with this new character is everything is totally encapsulated on that one character. There can be like no outside influence. So I'm going to act as if these are not skins I've already got unlocked. Though maybe since it's just sort of a fun cosmetic thing, I can go slack on that rule. Maybe you guys can too. Badges of honor. These I'm leaving. I'm just going to be ignoring world versus world for this new level up experience. Fractal relics. I'm going to be ignoring these as well. I won't be in fractals anyway till I'm 80. Guild commendations. These 2 can be ignored. Maybe you can spend them if you like. I'm saving up just because I'm going for the mini pets there, so I really don't see them. And of course, all of the dungeon tokens you want to get rid of too. The only one I've still got a token left on is Ascalon, because you cannot buy the potions directly in that dungeon. You have to buy like a ridiculously expensive recipe and craft them yourself, so you can't spend one at a time. But yeah, so that's the first thing you're going to want to do for a soft reset. The other thing you're going to want to do is head over to your bank. Now, obviously, this is all because we're making our own fun here. You know, we're sort of taking it into our own hands. You can manipulate the rules however you like. For me, I'm just never going to use my bank. But one of the most important things I felt I should do is make sure all my crafting materials had been removed. This experience of going out there and fighting and actually using my pickaxe and wanting to buy new pickaxes instead of just these unlimited account bound ones that are all over the place now. This feeling of actually caring about the different materials that I get, fine materials that I get dropping from mobs and actually be able to craft them. That would all just be made for nothing if I still had all these materials in my bank. So I've stripped them out. You'll notice Liss's inventory here is just full of mats, okay? And that's just me double clicking through all of these, just stripping the bank away. And what this means is when I make this new character, I can actually experience some fun crafting. At launch, I never really paid any attention to cooking. Cooking is really diverse. It's got a lot of depth to it, but it's also very easy to make all that depth redundant by simply looking at a guide online. I'm hoping that with this new character, I'm actually going to be able to walk around the world and experience collecting ingredients and trying to just experiment with cooking myself, as maybe some players will have at launch. So yeah, no materials at all. The only thing I've left in here even festive materials I got rid of. The only thing that I've left in here are the mini pets. Again, this is cosmetic, plus I was running out of space on some of my tunes, frankly. And maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't. There are a couple of things, obviously, you can't deal with a soft reset like this. If I were to make a new character now, it's going to feel very much like launch. You know, I'm going to have nothing on that character. As long as I don't start shifting stuff through my other toons, it's going to feel pretty good. There are a few differences for me, though. I can't simulate a perfect new account experience. And that's because of, like, account-bound unlocks. Magic Find, for example. I actually don't have very high Magic Find. It's never really been something I've paid much attention to. Though I was kind of interested in making a new toon with, like, max Magic Find. Like, grind again like I did for Stat Cap, but just to get 300% Magic Find, and then play a new toon. That could have been an interesting experience. But I can't strip this away, and similarly, I cannot strip away my permanent XP gains, Karma gains, and Gold Find, right? Can't get rid of those. But I don't expect these to be a huge issue, and if anything, it could just be kind of interesting to compare this to what the game was like at launch. Titles, similarly, cannot get rid of, but you'll notice many of these things are cosmetic that we can't strip away, and that to me is fine. Maybe I won't go for any Zenith skins, but we'll see. So that's the soft reset in place, and now basically the idea is I just go to my character select screen, I delete one of my toons. I'm going to be deleting Pirate Gold. Pirate Gold was like a failed experiment at a farm for silver doubloons, where you get a level 20 character that's explored the whole world and been to all those chests, and every day you just run through and pick them all up. So I'm going to delete Pirate Gold there, sorry about that. And we're going to make a new character. And once we get back into Tyria, whatever experience this character has will be very similar to the beginning of the game. Now, earlier I was talking to you guys about challenges. Already, we've kind of imposed a bit of a challenge on ourselves. We've already got rules that we've set for ourselves. I wanted to take that a bit further. There's going to be two really specific things that I will be doing through this playthrough of Guild Wars 2 that I never did for the first game, in the hopes that it will make it a little bit more fun for me and open my eyes to some things. Well, okay, three things. Number one that you guys should really look into is Sweet FX. It's basically just a filter for Guild Wars 2, right? So it just makes the colors look a lot more vibrant, brings out detail and flavor. I'm going to be running Sweet Effects. I'm actually going to change my preset as well, so that the game just looks a bit different, as a bit of a different atmosphere. Just again, so it feels a lot more fresh, it feels a lot more new. With all these other changes, like to the trait system and stuff all piled on together, hopefully it'll feel really good. But there's also two other things I'm going to be doing, just to challenge myself. Number one, I'm not going to be using any maps. You see down here, I've got my mini-map, like, as small as possible and zoomed in as far as possible. Well, now it is. I'm going to be covering this tiny region of my monitor up with a post-it note. Just going to put a post-it note on there. So I'm never going to be able to see the map. And further, I'm going to unbind M so it doesn't open the world map. And what this means as a byproduct of that is I actually cannot waypoint either. And I sincerely doubt that I'm going to be getting lost in Tyria now. But hopefully this idea of me being much closer to the game, much more immersed in the game, and without constantly looking at maps all the time, so that I'm actually looking at the terrain, should make it kind of a bit more of an interesting experience. And by the same token, the other thing I'm going to be doing is unbinding my camera scroll out. Instead of adhering to the temptation of just, you know, being as zoomed out as possible and staring at the floor like we all have done for so long, I'm going to be trying zoomed in nice and closely, which is now actually, you know, a pleasant experience given they changed the camera size, or height at least. And I'm not going to be zooming out at all, so I get a much more sort of immersive, over-the-shoulder, third-person experience. And, you know, this could prove to be really annoying in some areas, like dungeons, where I may be sort of slack with that rule. But for generally running around Tyria and experiencing the world, I'll have it at like a nice distance. Maybe this will be the distance I choose. And that's basically going to be my experience of running through Tyria. Another huge option along these lines out there is something called the Guild Wars 2 Combat Mod. I think it's still called Combat Mod, which like completely changes a lot of the way the game functions in terms of the way you aim your skills, and even the UI. Like, it even puts a crosshair on there. It makes it feel much more like a third-person action game instead of like a hotkey-based MMO. Looks really interesting. However, this video is maybe out of the scope. I may choose to be using that, in which case these little updates that I give you guys, we'll talk about it some more, maybe even dedicate a video to it on itself, because it does look very, very cool. So yeah, that's pretty much my idea. I thought it was kind of a quirky, cool little thing, and I wanted to let you guys know what I'll be doing with the game for a while. Some people obviously leave themselves wondering, how can you keep playing the game for so long? Maybe some people will think, oh, this is so stupid, just grasping at straws for finding content to play. But at the end of the day, we are in a lack of content right now. We are in a bit of a lull. It's going to be a little while until Season 2 comes out, and this is something that I've always enjoyed. In any game I play, I always do something kind of weird. And this is something I think could be really fun to experience with everything layered on together. It'll be fun to sort of revisit Tyria and see a lot of the stuff I haven't seen for so long, because I've just been hidden away in dungeons and fractals and World vs. World, for example. So anyway, there you go, guys. I'll give you guys little updates every now and then, probably at the start of Q&A videos or news videos, just how my experience has been with all of this. And yeah, I'll show off the new character I make. I'm thinking it's going to be a Sylvari, maybe, but then Ranger Sylvaris are a little bit cliche. Maybe you guys have got any ideas on that. That's the last thing I need to decide, the race and the name of the Ranger. And then I will be beginning, probably by the end of the day. Anyway, thanks very much, guys. Let me know what you think of this. Kind of weird, but I wanted to share it. Hope you enjoyed watching. And if you decide to do the same for yourselves, let me know. I'd love to hear some progress reports too. I'll be keeping a close eye on this same comment section over the coming weeks. So if you want to keep giving me updates, I'll be there reading them. I promise I will be. Anyway, guys, hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.